A routine scroll through OTA recaps, quiet roster shuffling, harmless speculation about training camp battles. But then the alert came through, subtle at first, like a whisper before a storm. Steelers and Dolphins agree to trade. No context, no details. Just enough of a breadcrumb to make you pause. You click, and suddenly, you're no longer looking at filler content during the NFL's off-season lull. You're staring at the first domino in what could become a chain reaction that reshapes the 2025 landscape. Not just for the Steelers or Dolphins, but for the Cowboys too. And you may not see it yet, but you will. Because this wasn't just a trade, it was a seismic shift. Jalen Ramsey, a cornerstone-level cornerback, is headed to Pittsburgh. Minka Fitzpatrick, one of the NFL's most cerebral and instinctive safeties, is returning to Miami. Jonnu Smith, a versatile tight end, is suddenly involved. Late-round picks are being exchanged like subtle smoke signals, because this deal wasn't only about who went where, it was about why now, and why like this. And that's where the suspense truly begins. Because at the surface, this feels like two AFC teams solving their own internal puzzles, one needing physicality and swagger in the secondary, the other craving IQ and leadership. But the trade's unexpected timing, the quiet way it materialized, and the fact that it involves multiple former Pro Bowlers, plus an oddly structured contract adjustment that somehow gave Ramsey a raise, all point to something deeper. That the defensive back market is about to fracture, that prices are about to rise, and that every team still in need of help at cornerback is about to be left scrambling, including the Dallas Cowboys. And here's where it gets tense, because Dallas wasn't directly involved, but you better believe they felt the tremor. They've been walking a tightrope all off-season at the corner position, praying for health, hoping for development, and bracing for the unknown. With Trevon Diggs still working back from injury and uncertainty surrounding Kyrie Elam's readiness to be a full-time CB2, the Cowboys entered this off-season playing a game of controlled risk, passing on proven veterans, choosing internal growth over external insurance. But when a deal like this happens, when one of the top names on the board disappears and the dominoes start falling, you don't get to wait anymore. You get forced to move, because now the rest of the league is watching, adjusting, reacting. The Packers, who cut ties with Jair Alexander, are likely shopping. The Panthers, who flirted with Ramsey interest, are probably pivoting. The Raiders, the Chargers, the Rams, the Vikings, all have secondary holes and all just watched a market they were quietly monitoring shift underneath their feet. So the question isn't whether Dallas missed out on Ramsey. He was never really on the table for them. Not with that contract. Not with their cap structure. The question is whether they're about to miss out on everyone else. And the options? They're shrinking fast. Stephon Gilmore, former Cowboy, former Defensive Player of the Year, still sitting unsigned, still waiting for that right call. He wanted to stay last season. He knew the scheme. He executed well. He may not be a lockdown CB1 anymore, but in a league starving for experienced, steady hands, Gilmore is still valuable. And if Dallas is wise, he's still on speed dial. Then there's Mike Hilton, the best nickel corner left on the board. A tenacious run stopper with years of experience, though not without red flags. The Bengals benched him on third downs last season, a troubling sign for a player whose value hinges on those very moments. But still, if the plan is to move Darren Bland outside in the short term, Hilton is a name you can't ignore. Then there's Rasul Douglas, solid, long, experienced. He's been connected to several teams in recent weeks. The Texans, the Seahawks, maybe even the Lions. He's not elite, but he brings size and football IQ, and that may be all Dallas needs. But here's where things get murky. Asante Samuel Jr., a tantalizing talent with a brutal asterisk, the neck surgery, the lingering stinger issues, the shortened 2024 campaign. These aren't minor injuries, they're red flags that scream long-term risk. And in Dallas, where they've already seen injuries derail Super Bowl windows in recent years, you have to wonder, do they take the gamble? Because the upside is undeniable. Samuel has the footwork, the instincts, the twitch. But the medicals? That's a scary bet to place this late in July. Then there's Kendall Fuller. Not flashy, not dominant, but consistent, reliable, experienced. He's the kind of player you bring in to stabilize a shaky room, not transform it. But maybe that's what Dallas needs. Just a little calm amidst the chaos. And speaking of chaos, Cam Sutton. A cautionary tale. Suspended. Inconsistent. Possibly cooked. But still lurking on the edges of the market, waiting for someone desperate enough to take a flyer. Dallas? I doubt it. But you never know in this league. Not when the pressure starts to mount. Because here's the bigger point. The Cowboys can't afford to get this wrong. This isn't just about depth. It's about structure. It's about playoff readiness. Because this defense, this Parsons-led, Quinn-schemed, Diggs-dependent defense, only works if the back end holds up. And right now, it's far from stable. Bland is elite in the slot, but untested on the perimeter. Elam is a talent worth betting on, but he's raw, and this coaching staff hasn't exactly showered him with starting reps. Beyond that, it's a cliff. Andrew Booth, inconsistent. Robert Rochelle, meh. Nashon Wright, fringe. Israel Mukwamu, versatile but not a CB2. And if Diggs isn't ready for week 1, and there's no guarantee he will be, this house of cards starts wobbling. You can't expect to contend for a Super Bowl in 2025 with uncertainty at CB2 and no plan beyond hope. Especially not with the schedule Dallas faces. Especially not in a conference with A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin, Brandon Ayuk, and Amon-Ra St. Brown waiting to test every inch of your secondary. So now the suspense becomes real. Not in theory, not in metaphor, but in the front office. In meetings behind closed doors. Is Gilmore coming back? Is someone else on the radar? Is there a trade brewing? The answer may lie in the next few weeks. Because if Dallas doesn't act, they may not have anyone left to choose from. And you can feel it, the tremor of urgency rippling across the league. You can feel the agents calling, the GMs whispering, the conversations shifting. Because Jalen Ramsey's exit didn't just move him from Miami to Pittsburgh, it shifted the entire weight of the free agent market. It drew a line in the sand. Before Ramsey, teams were waiting, evaluating, hesitating. Now, they're moving. They're evaluating second-tier guys with first-tier urgency. And Dallas? They need to stop watching and start doing. This isn't about reacting to a trade they weren't part of. It's about recognizing the implications of standing still while the league shifts around them. Because that's the danger of quiet off-seasons.